The email landed in my inbox with the subtlety of a car bomb. Its subject line, written in a cheerful, swirling font, was a stark contrast to the dread that coiled in my stomach. The annual Callahan family beach retreat. Save the date. My sister, Amelia, the family's designated ray of sunshine and event planner, had CC'd the entire extended clan. Everyone, it seemed, except the person she knew wouldn't feel welcome. Me. My name is Evelyn Callahan, and for the better part of 2 decades, I have been the family's silent failure. The ghost at the feast they conveniently forgot to invite. It wasn't a title I chose, but one bestowed upon me by my mother, Eleanor, through a masterclass in passive aggression. A pointed silence here, a barely suppressed sigh of disappointment there. You're not going to let that email ruin your week again, are you? Ben's voice, warm and concerned, drifted over the top of my cubicle wall. His kind eyes, crinkled at the corners from smiling, made me slam my laptop shut a little too quickly. Of course not. I lied, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. Just another Tuesday. But it wasn't just another Tuesday. It was the annual reopening of a wound I tried so hard to cauterize. That beach house, a sprawling, salt-weathered Victorian on the coast of Maine, wasn't just a property. It was a museum of every happy memory I had before the world shifted on its axis. Before I became the outsider looking in. I remember the summer I turned 13, the year the invisible walls went up. Amelia, older by 2 years and already anointed the golden child, was invited to sit on the deck with Dad and his business partners, absorbing talk of mergers and acquisitions. My brother, Leo, younger and perpetually coddled, was paraded around to show the neighbors his latest science fair project, a volcano that barely fizzed. And me, Evelyn, darling, why don't you go help your grandmother in the kitchen? Mom had said, her voice sweet as poison. A young lady should know her way around a stove. While they discussed stock options and golf swings, I was learning to peel a mountain of potatoes, my dreams of being an astronaut or a CEO dismissed as childish fantasies. The books I devoured, filled with worlds of adventure and strategy, were deemed a waste of good sunlight. My phone buzzed, pulling me from the memory. A text from Chloe, my best friend since kindergarten, and the only person who understood the Callahan family code. Chloe, let me guess. The annual summons from Mount Olympus has arrived. Me, bingo. Want to place a bet on how long it takes for Mom to call with the annual spaces limited this year excuse? The answer was 47 minutes. Eleanor Callahan's name flashed across my screen, punctual as a Swiss train. Evelyn, dear, she began, her voice dripping with the artificial honey she reserved for difficult conversations about the beach retreat. Let me save you the trouble, Mom, I cut in, surprising myself with the steel in my own voice. It was a voice forged in boardrooms, not kitchens. The house is just too full, right? Amelia's kids need their own rooms, I imagine. Or is it Leo's new girlfriend, the yoga instructor, who needs the extra space for her morning sun salutations? The silence on the other end was so profound, I could hear the faint hiss of the line. Well, you know how it is, she finally stammered, the honey turning sour. Amelia's children are at such a formative age. They need these family traditions. I glanced at the heavy, cream-colored letter sitting on my desk, the one I hadn't told them about. The one that named me Senior Vice President of Global Strategy for one of the largest investment firms in Boston, the youngest in the company's history. At 34. Yeah, Mom, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I know exactly how it is. After hanging up, a familiar wave of cold fury washed over me. I stood up, smoothed down my silk blouse, and walked the 50 feet to Marcus Thorne's corner office. My mentor, my boss, and the closest thing I'd had to a father figure for the last decade. He looked up from a stack of financial reports, his sharp eyes reading my expression in an instant. Callahan family business? He asked, gesturing to the plush leather chair across from his mahogany desk. I sank into it, the anger deflating into a weary sigh. Sometimes I don't know why I still let it get to me. Because you're human, Evelyn, he said simply, his voice a low baritone that always commanded respect. And because you still crave the one thing you can't acquire through a leveraged buyout, their approval. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. You know, they say living well is the best revenge. I offered a weak, cynical smile. I'm living pretty damn well, Marcus. It doesn't seem to be working. He leaned forward, a predatory glint in his eyes that I'd seen him use to dismantle corporate rivals. No, you misunderstand. That's the amateur's motto. The best revenge isn't living well. It's becoming so astronomically successful, so undeniably powerful, that they can no longer afford to ignore you. He tapped a folder on his desk. Speaking of which, have you given any more thought to my proposal regarding the Sterling Vance merger? I straightened up, pushing the toxic fog of family drama aside. I pulled out my tablet, my fingers flying across the screen. Actually, I have. I've been running the numbers all weekend. What if we don't approach it as a merger of equals? What if we frame it as a strategic acquisition, and we use our own capital reserves to leverage a controlling interest from the outset? For the next 2 hours, we dove into the intricate dance of high finance. This was my sanctuary, my comfort zone. As I walked Marcus through my multi-phase strategy, complete with risk assessments and projected market share growth, I felt the familiar surge of adrenaline and confidence. This was my arena. This was where I belonged. This was where I was not invisible. Later that evening, driving my Audi R8 through the glittering streets of Boston, Chloe called. Okay, spill, she said, without preamble. How bad was the fallout? The usual. I'm not invited, but in a way that's supposed to make me feel like it was my decision. You know what you need, she said, her voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. A plan. A real, honest-to-God, Machiavellian plan. A plan for what? To finally win a game of Monopoly against Leo? No, silly. A plan to show them once and for all exactly what they've been missing. You're not that scared 13-year-old girl hiding in the pantry with a book anymore, Ev. You're a titan. A force of nature. It's time they felt the storm. I stopped at a red light, the city lights blurring through my windshield. What's the point, Chloe? They've drawn their lines in the sand. The point, she said, her voice fierce, is that you deserve to stand on any damn ground you please. And maybe, just maybe, it's time you own the beach. After we hung up, I sat in my designated spot in the heated garage of my luxury apartment building, the engine purring softly. 10 years ago, I'd started as an unpaid intern, fueled by caffeine and a desperate need to prove everyone wrong. Now, I had everything they said I'd never achieve. A 7-figure salary, a portfolio that would make my father weep, the respect of my peers. Everything except the one thing I was conditioned to want. My phone pinged. An email from Amelia. The subject, last year's beach retreat memories. It was a photo album. Dozens of pictures of smiling faces, inside jokes captured in candid moments, a tapestry of shared history I had no thread in. But instead of the usual sharp sting of rejection, I felt something else stirring in the pit of my stomach. A cold, hard resolve. I went upstairs, poured myself a glass of 25-year-old Macallan, and opened my laptop. I navigated to the real estate website I'd been monitoring for months, more out of a masochistic curiosity than anything else. And there it was, the Callahan Beach House. Its market value had plummeted in the recent economic downturn. The listing photo showed peeling paint and a deck that looked dangerously weathered. The same beach house my parents, living off a dwindling pension and a lifetime of poor investments, could no longer afford to maintain. Time for a different kind of strategic acquisition, I whispered to the empty room, my reflection a sharp silhouette against the panoramic city view. I clicked the contact agent button. Maybe Chloe was right. Maybe it was time for a plan. Not for revenge, I told myself, but for reclamation. The kind of justice that comes with compound interest. The Sterling Vance merger isn't just about combining assets, I explained, my voice calm and steady as it filled the cavernous boardroom. It's about fundamentally redefining the market landscape for the next quarter century. My laser pointer highlighted a key projection on the massive screen behind me, a steep, aggressive, upward curve. From the far end of the polished oak table, Ben gave me a subtle, encouraging thumbs up. We had spent countless late nights and weekends wargaming this presentation. We both knew this was the moment of truth. Mr. Sterling himself, A titan of industry with a face like a weathered cliffside leaned forward, his shrewd eyes scrutinizing the data. "You're certain about these numbers, Miss Callahan?" "They seem optimistic. I stake my professional reputation on them, sir," I replied, meeting his gaze without a flicker of hesitation. "More importantly, I'm staking the future of both our companies on them." Marcus cleared his throat from his seat beside Mr. Sterling. "Evelyn has never steered us wrong. In the 7 years she's been managing our aggressive growth portfolio, she's delivered an average return of 38% year over year. Her track record speaks for itself." The meeting concluded 2 hours later, with firm handshakes, signed preliminary agreements, and the palpable buzz of a paradigm shift. As the board members filed out, Marcus pulled me aside, his face beaming with a pride that felt more paternal than professional. "Outstanding work, Evelyn, truly. I knew you were the one for the job." He paused, his expression turning serious. "Which brings me to my next point. Why didn't you mention the promotion opportunity in Hong Kong? The board is ready to make you head of the entire Asia-Pacific division. This merger's success practically guarantees you the position." My stomach tightened into a cold knot. The Hong Kong role was the career equivalent of a coronation, a life-defining opportunity. And the start date coincided almost exactly with the week of the Callahan family beach retreat. "I'm still considering my options," I said carefully, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. Back at my desk, Ben perched on the edge, a celebratory coffee in hand. "Spill it. What's really holding you back? This is everything you've ever worked for. You, running an entire continent. It's insane." Before I could formulate a response, my phone buzzed. Amelia's name. I silenced it, letting it go to voicemail. "That's what's holding her back," Chloe announced, appearing as if summoned, juggling 2 large bags from our favorite deli. "The annual Callahan guilt trip. Am I right?" "I thought we were meeting at the cafe," I said, immensely grateful for the interruption. Change of plans. I wanted to witness the post-victory glow in person. She distributed sandwiches, then fixed me with a knowing look that could see through lead. "So, Hong Kong. Tell me everything." "News travels fast," I muttered, unwrapping a turkey and avocado on rye. "In this case, good news should travel at the speed of light," Ben insisted, leaning in. "You cannot seriously be considering passing this up because of them." My phone buzzed again. A text from Amelia. "Mom's asking if you got the reunion email. Said your phone went straight to voicemail. Please respond. It's making things awkward." Chloe snatched my phone before I could react. "Oh, hell no," she declared, reading the message. "Do you know what this is? This is them realizing they can't just ignore you anymore. The family gossip vine must have finally caught wind of your success. They're getting nervous." "Give me my phone back," I said, reaching for it. She held it just out of reach. "Not until you promise me you will stop letting a group of people who still think your greatest accomplishment is a well-made casserole dictate your life choices." "I'm not." I started to protest, but Ben cut me off. "Evelyn, remember last month's charity gala? You walked into that room full of billionaire CEOs and old money patriarchs, and you didn't just command their attention, you owned it. That's who you are. Not the invisible middle child they conditioned you to be." My phone buzzed a 3rd time. Leo. "Hey sis, long time, no talk. Got a minute to chat about a new venture? Think blockchain meets artisanal coffee." Suddenly, everyone wants to talk, I said, the irony thick enough to cut with a knife. "Because you're becoming impossible to ignore," Chloe grinned, finally handing back my phone. "Now, about Hong Kong. The timing is," I began. "Absolutely perfect," Ben finished for me. "Go to Asia. Become a legend. Let them play happy family at their precious crumbling beach house and wonder why their calls are suddenly going to voicemail." Marcus appeared in my office doorway, his presence immediately silencing our conversation. "Evelyn, Mr. Sterling was so impressed he wants to discuss implementation strategies over dinner tonight. Just the 2 of you. Atlas Spalier." I stood, my mind already shifting gears, the family drama receding like a bad dream. I straightened the jacket of my Tom Ford suit. "Text me the details." After Marcus left, Chloe raised an eyebrow. "Look at you. Power moves only." "It's just dinner," I said, but I couldn't suppress a small smile. Just dinner with one of the most influential men in the country, Ben corrected. While your family probably thinks you're still alphabetizing files in some windowless office, my phone lit up with another message, this time from Mom. Evelyn, dear, please call me when you have a moment. There are some important family matters to discuss. Chloe read it over my shoulder and snorted. Important family matters. Translation. We're starting to realize we might have backed the wrong horse and need to hedge our bets. I picked up my presentation materials, my mind already strategizing for the dinner ahead. They can keep their excuses, I said, feeling a new, unshakable resolve solidify within me. I've got an empire to build. That's my girl. Ben grinned. Speaking of building things, did you make an offer on that seaside property yet? Tomorrow morning, I said, checking my reflection in my compact mirror. The agent says we're the only serious buyers. A cash offer, no contingencies. Perfect timing, Chloe sang, her eyes sparkling with mischief, right before they send out the official reunion itinerary. As I gathered my things for the Sterling dinner, I felt lighter than I had in years. My family may have mastered the art of making me feel small, but in this world, my world, I was anything but. Hey, Ben called as I headed for the elevator. Don't forget who you are in there. Show him what Evelyn Callahan Unleashed looks like. I smiled, thinking of the beach house listing and the signed offer waiting in my inbox. Oh, I plan to show everyone exactly who I am. Congratulations, Miss Callahan. The house is yours. The real estate agent, a woman named Brenda with impeccably manicured nails, slid a set of old-fashioned brass keys across her glass desk. They gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights of the small coastal office. My hand trembled slightly as I reached out and picked them up. These small, cold pieces of metal represented more than just property ownership. They were the keys to my past, and more importantly, the keys to my future. I can't believe you actually did it, Chloe whispered beside me, squeezing my arm so hard I thought she might leave a bruise. Brenda smiled, a professional, practiced expression. The paperwork will be processed and filed by the end of the business day. Given the current market conditions and the state of the property, you've made an incredibly shrewd investment. The previous owners were motivated sellers. Walking out of the office into the crisp, salt-tinged air, I clutched the keys so tightly their teeth left deep impressions in my palm. My phone buzzed. It was Marcus. Tell me you closed the deal, he said, skipping the pleasantries as usual. Just sign the final papers. Perfect timing. The Hong Kong position is yours if you want it. The board approved it unanimously this morning. I stopped dead on the sidewalk, causing Chloe to bump into me. Already? I thought the final decision wasn't until next month. Your performance at the dinner with Sterling sealed it. He called me personally this morning, said he hadn't been that impressed by a strategic mind since the dot-com boom. He specifically requested you lead the merger's international transition team from the Hong Kong office. Chloe was practically vibrating with excitement, having heard both sides of the conversation. As I hung up, she grabbed my shoulders, her face alight with glee. Okay, this is literally the most perfect storm in the history of perfect storms. You own their sacred beach house, and you're about to become an international executive powerhouse. Please, please tell me you are going to milk this for every last drop of karmic justice. My phone chimed with a new text. It was Amelia. Family meeting this weekend at the house to discuss the reunion. Mom insists you come. It's really important. Please, Ev. Oh, this is too good, Chloe cackled, reading the text over my shoulder. They have no idea they're summoning you to a meeting at a venue you now own. Neither does the agent, I reminded her. I made sure the purchase went through my holding corporation. The title is under EC Strategic Ventures, LLC. Sneaky, I love it. She linked her arm through mine as we walked toward my car. So, what's the master plan, boss? Before I could answer, my phone rang again. It was Ben. Marcus just told me the news, both pieces of news. You're going to accept Hong Kong, right? Say yes. I haven't officially decided, I said, putting him on speaker as I started the car. What's to decide? It's perfect. You can run the merger from Asia, build your global profile, and let your family stew in their own pot of regrets from 6,000 miles away. Speaking of stewing, Chloe chimed in. Evelyn just got summoned to an emergency family meeting about the reunion. No way! Ben's laughter crackled through the speakers. Are you going to go? I turned onto the coastal highway, the road that led directly to the beach house. My beach house. The familiar drive felt different now. Every curve in the road, every breathtaking glimpse of the Atlantic between the pine trees, belonged to me in a way it never had before. Actually, yes, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. I think it's time for a visit. I parked in the gravel driveway in front of the sprawling Victorian home. Its weathered blue paint and white trim were exactly as I remembered, only more faded, more tired. Chloe whistled, low and long. I forgot how gorgeous this place is. Or was. It needs some serious TLC. No wonder they're so desperate to keep it. I walked up the creaking wooden steps, the keys feeling heavy and powerful in my hand. I slid one into the lock. It turned smoothly. The door swung open, revealing a dusty interior that smelled of sea salt, old wood, and forgotten memories. Summer nights, boisterous family dinners, whispered secrets in the dark. But now, underneath it all, was the sweet, intoxicating scent of victory. My phone rang. It was my mother. Evelyn, are you coming this weekend? Amelia said she texted you. Actually, Mom, I said, walking through the living room, trailing my fingers along a dust-covered mantelpiece. I'm at the beach house right now. Silence. Then, a confused sputtering. What? How? The realtor said the sale was pending. She said it was sold this morning. Interesting, I said, my voice a placid lake. I pushed open the French doors to the deck, breathing in the ocean air. Don't worry about it. I'll see you all this weekend. We have a lot to discuss. I hung up before she could respond. Chloe was recording the entire exchange on her phone, barely containing her glee. That was beautiful. A masterpiece of understated psychological warfare. Did you hear her voice crack? Send me that video, Ben said through the speaker. I need it for posterity. I leaned against the deck railing, which wobbled precariously under my weight. I made a mental note to have a contractor inspect the entire structure. You know what's funny? I said, watching the waves crash against the shore. They always said I didn't understand the value of family tradition, but I'm the one who just saved it. By buying it out from under them, Chloe added with a wicked smirk. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying something, I said, feeling a profound sense of clarity. It's about preserving it. On your own terms. My phone buzzed again. A rapid-fire succession of texts from Amelia, Leo, and my mother. I ignored them all. So, Ben's voice crackled through the speaker. What's the next move, boss? I smiled, picturing their faces at the upcoming family meeting. Now, I said, we prepare for a reunion they will never, ever forget. Want company this weekend? Chloe offered. I make an excellent witness and an even better bartender. No, I said, pulling out my laptop and setting it up on a dusty patio table. This is something I need to do alone. I opened a new email draft, but first, I have a Hong Kong acceptance letter to write. Standing on my deck, overlooking my ocean, I felt the final, intricate pieces of my plan clicking into place. The scared little girl who used to hide in this house's shadowy corners was gone. In her place stood a woman they had never bothered to know, a woman they had created through their neglect, a woman they would finally have to acknowledge. The sound of car doors slamming, followed by the familiar cadence of my family's voices, jolted me from my work. I'd been on a conference call with the Tokyo team all morning, enjoying the panoramic ocean view from my new home office, when the sound drifted up from the driveway. I'm telling you, Eleanor, she was acting weird on the phone. My father's voice, a low grumble, carried through the open windows. She's always weird, Richard, Leo replied with a dismissive snort. Remember that Christmas she tried to explain what a hedge fund was? I closed my laptop, my heart beginning to pound a steady, powerful rhythm against my ribs. They were early. The emergency meeting wasn't supposed to be until tomorrow. Through the window, I watched them unloading their cars, coolers, duffel bags, groceries, as if they owned the place, which of course they no longer did. My phone buzzed. A text from Ben. Game time? They're here early, I texted back. The ambush has been ambushed. Wish me luck. Show no mercy, came his instant reply. I heard the rattle of a key in the front door lock, followed by confused muttering. "Eleanor, your key isn't working," my father called out. "That's impossible. I just had a copy made last month." I walked down the grand, sweeping staircase, my Louboutin heels clicking deliberately on the newly polished hardwood floors. The sound made the voices outside fall silent. I opened the door, a serene smile fixed on my face. Their shocked expressions were a symphony. My mother, my father, Amelia, and Leo stood on the porch, frozen like statues. "Looking for something?" I asked sweetly. My mother's hand flew to her chest, a gesture of pure, unadulterated shock. "Evelyn, what are you doing here? How did you get in?" "I live here," I said simply, stepping aside to let them pass. "Please, come in. My house is your house." Literally. The silence that followed was so thick and heavy it felt like a physical object in the room. Amelia's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Leo dropped his duffel bag on the porch with a dull thud. "What do you mean? You live here?" My father finally managed, his voice a hoarse whisper. I walked to the kitchen, knowing they would follow me like dazed sheep. "Coffee? I just made a fresh pot. It's a single origin Colombian roast. I know how much you love it, Mom." "Evelyn." Amelia's voice had that sharp, commanding older sister edge I knew so well. "What is going on?" I poured myself a cup, the rich aroma filling the air. I took a slow, deliberate sip, enjoying their collective confusion. "I thought the family meeting was tomorrow. Did I miss a memo?" "Oh wait," I smiled over the rim of my cup. "I guess I'm not usually on those distribution lists, am I?" "Stop playing games, Ev," Leo snapped, his bravado a thin veneer over his bewilderment. "How are you in here? This is our family house." "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone and bringing up the property documents I had saved to the home screen. "It's my house. Has been for 2 weeks." I turned the screen towards them. "Would you like to see the deed?" My mother sank into a kitchen chair, her face ashen. That's impossible. We would have known." "Would you?" I leaned against the gleaming new quartz countertop, a stark contrast to the cracked formica that used to be there. "When was the last time any of you asked me a single question about my life? About what I was doing, where I was investing, what I was building?" I gestured with my cup. "Coffee? No, your loss. It's imported." Amelia snatched my phone, her eyes scanning the legal document. "This can't be real. How could you possibly afford—" "The same way I afford my penthouse in the seaport, my ski chalet in Aspen, and my collection of vintage sports cars," I said, my voice casual, almost bored. "I work. Remember work? That thing you all were so certain I'd never figure out?" "Your what?" Leo choked out the word. Another car door slammed outside. My father's brother, Uncle Robert, had arrived. "Why is everyone standing around like statues? Help me with these groceries," he boomed, appearing in the doorway with bags in his hands. He froze, his eyes landing on me. "Evelyn, what's going on?" "Family meeting came early, Uncle Robert," I said, taking the bags from his stunned hands and beginning to unpack them with practiced efficiency. "Though I should point out, next time you might want to check with the homeowner before buying groceries for their house." "Your house?" He looked at my mother, who was still sitting in shocked silence. "Perhaps we should all sit down," I suggested, gesturing to the formal dining room. "I believe we have some catching up to do." They followed me, their movements slow and uncertain. They settled around the long dining table where we'd had countless family meals from which I was often relegated to the kitchen to help serve and clean. I took my place at the head of the table, my father's old spot. "So," I began, examining my manicure, "about this year's reunion. You can't just buy our family home." Amelia burst out, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "A funny thing about traditions," I said, meeting her gaze. "They're only as strong as the people who maintain them. When the bank called about the foreclosure proceedings, where was your tradition then?" My mother's head snapped up. "How did you know about that?" "I know everything, Mom. I know about the missed mortgage payments. I know about the second mortgage you took out to fund Leo's disastrous cryptocurrency venture. I know about the tax liens." I let the words hang in the air. "I know, because, unlike some people, I do my research before making a multi-million-dollar investment. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. Need backup? Sending wine and moral support. All good. Operation Karma is in full effect, I texted back, looking up at my family's stunned, pale faces. I smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of my lips. Now, about those reunion plans. I was thinking we might need to make a few changes this year. After all, I gestured to the breathtaking ocean view through the newly installed floor-to-ceiling windows. New house, new rules. The look of dawning, horrified comprehension on their faces was more satisfying than any merger deal I had ever closed. And we were just getting started. You could have told us, Amelia said, her voice barely a whisper, breaking the tense, suffocating silence that had fallen over the dining room. About your success, your career, everything. Could I? I raised a single, perfectly sculpted eyebrow. When, exactly? Between being systematically uninvited to family gatherings, or during those 30-second holiday phone calls that never came? My father cleared his throat, his face flushed. Now, Evelyn, that's not entirely fair. Fair? I let out a short, sharp laugh that made my mother flinch. Let's talk about fair, Dad. Do you remember my college graduation? You all skipped it because Leo had a regional soccer tournament. That was different, dear, my mother protested weakly. Leo was being scouted for a scholarship. A scholarship he didn't get, I finished for her, my voice turning to ice. Meanwhile, I was accepting my MBA from Harvard, summa cum laude. Not that any of you would know, since you never bothered to ask. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hong Kong announcement goes public tomorrow at 9 a.m. EST. Want me to delay? Perfect timing. Proceed as planned, I texted back, not taking my eyes off my family. Leo leaned forward, a desperate, scheming look in his eyes. So what now? You're just going to hold this over our heads? Make us beg to use our own family house? Your family house? I stood up and walked towards the completely renovated, state-of-the-art kitchen. Come see what your family house looked like when I bought it. I opened a leather-bound folder on the island, spreading out a series of large, glossy photographs. The rotting deck boards that were a lawsuit waiting to happen. The leaking roof that had caused black mold to grow in the attic. The outdated knob and tube wiring that was one bad thunderstorm away from burning this entire place to the ground. I laid out the before and after shots, followed by a neatly itemized list of expenses. $65,000 in essential repairs just to make it habitable. Another $150,000 in renovations and upgrades. Where was your family pride then? Amelia picked up a photo of the mold-streaked attic, her face paling. We didn't know it was this bad. Because none of you bothered to check, I snapped, my voice finally cracking with 2 decades of frustration. You just assumed everything would magically take care of itself. Just like you assumed I would never amount to anything more than a cautionary tale. My father stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. That's enough. We may have made mistakes, Evelyn, but you are still our daughter. Am I? I turned to face him, my entire body thrumming with a cold, righteous anger. Because from where I'm standing, I've been your afterthought for 20 years. Your financial fallback plan. Your secret disappointment. My phone lit up with a news alert from the Wall Street Journal. The Hong Kong announcement had been leaked early. Seconds later, my mother's phone buzzed, then Amelia's, then Leo's. My mother's eyes widened as she read the headline on her screen. Vice President of Asia Pacific Operations? She whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. Evelyn, you're moving to Hong Kong? Among other things, I said, pouring myself a glass of sparkling water from the built-in dispenser. The merger I just closed is projected to generate more revenue in its first fiscal year than the total assessed value of this entire town. Amelia grabbed her mother's phone, reading the article aloud, her voice growing more incredulous with every word. Youngest executive in company history. Hailed as a visionary for her revolutionary merger strategy. Projected to triple the firm's market share in the Asian sector. Impossible, Leo muttered, shaking his head. You're just Evelyn. Just Evelyn, I repeated softly, savoring the words. Funny how that works, isn't it? The daughter you never believed in, the one you wrote off, now owns your precious family legacy and runs a global division from halfway across the world. My father sank back into his chair, looking suddenly old and frail. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said, my voice softening slightly, not with pity, but with a profound sadness for what could have been. I did. Every time I tried to talk about a project at work, you changed the subject to Amelia's kids. Every time I mentioned a promotion, you'd ask Leo about his latest brilliant idea. Every achievement was met with polite, vacant disinterest. You didn't want to hear it. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ben. Stock is up 12% in after-hours trading on the Hong Kong news. You're trending on LinkedIn, boss. My mother was still staring at her phone, her lips moving silently as she read the financial details in the article. These numbers, Evelyn, this is more money than you can possibly imagine, I supplied. Yes, Mom, it is, and that's just the beginning. So what happens now? Amelia asked quietly, her eyes filled with a dawning understanding. With the reunion, with everything? I walked to the massive windows, looking out at the endless expanse of the ocean I now owned. Now, I said, turning back to them, now we do things differently. The reunion will happen, but under new management. Meaning what? Leo challenged, a flicker of his old arrogance returning. Meaning I've already booked the entire top-floor presidential suite at the Four Seasons Boston for all of you for the week, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. The beach house. I paused, letting the words sink in, needs some private time with its new owner. You're kicking us out? My mother's voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes. No, Mom, I said, my voice softening into something that was almost gentle. I'm showing you what it feels like to be on the outside looking in. The difference is, I'm doing it with 5-star accommodations, a personal concierge, and an ocean view. My father stood again, this time more slowly. His shoulders slumped. We deserved that, he said, his voice thick with regret. All of it. But Evelyn, are you sure this is what you want? What I want? I looked at each of them in turn, seeing not monsters, but flawed, short-sighted people. What I want is 20 years of missed birthdays and ignored accomplishments back. What I want is a single, honest explanation for why I was never good enough. I walked back to the table and pulled a stack of printed hotel reservations from my leather portfolio, sliding them across the polished wood. But since I can't have those things, I'll settle for this. For watching you all finally realize exactly what you threw away. Amelia picked up a reservation, her breath catching in her throat as she read the suite description. This must have cost a fortune. Less than a day's interest on my signing bonus, I cut her off. Consider it a parting gift. Before Hong Kong, how long? My mother asked, her voice small and broken. How long will you be gone? I smiled. A real, genuine smile for the first time all day, thinking of all the family events I'd missed, all the photos I was never in. Long enough, I said. Long enough for you to understand what absence truly feels like. Now, shall we discuss the new rules for the family reunion? The silence that followed was heavy with 2 decades of unspoken words, of regrets and missed opportunities, none of which were mine. The Four Seasons lobby was a symphony of quiet, opulence-gleaming marble, hushed conversations, and the faint scent of lilies. My family, looking thoroughly out of place in their casual weekend attire, checked into their suites. I stood back, an observer in my own meticulously crafted drama, watching Amelia's kids chase each other around the massive columns while Leo awkwardly tried to impress the concierge with tales of his non-existent startup success. Your car is ready, Miss Callahan. The valet approached me, his bow discreet and respectful. My mother's head snapped around at the deferential tone. I saw her eyes widen as she took in the gleaming black Bentley waiting for me at the curb. Evelyn. She called out, hurrying over, her voice a strange mix of awe and desperation. We need to talk, properly talk. Actually, I have a meeting, I said, checking the Patek Philippe on my wrist. Global markets don't pause for family drama. Please, she touched my arm. The first unsolicited physical contact we'd had in what felt like a decade. Her touch was hesitant, foreign, just coffee, 20 minutes. I studied her face, noting the new lines of stress etched around her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped with a weariness that wasn't just physical. Fine, I sighed. The rooftop lounge. 15 minutes. I have a hard out. Upstairs, overlooking the Boston skyline, my mother fidgeted with her coffee cup, stirring in sugar she didn't take. I answered 3 urgent emails about the Hong Kong transition plan before she finally spoke. I didn't know, she said, her voice barely a whisper. We didn't know you were so accomplished. Clearly, I replied, setting my phone down. Though, to be fair, you never asked. We thought. She paused, searching for the right words, for an excuse that wouldn't sound as hollow as it was. After you dropped out of law school. I didn't drop out, I corrected her sharply. The old sting of that accusation still potent. I was accepted into Harvard Business School on a full scholarship, which you would know if you had bothered to read any of the letters I sent. Your father and I, we just wanted you to have a stable, sensible career, like Amelia's law practice. The law practice she never actually started because she married rich, I countered. Or Leo's string of failed startups that you and Dad kept funding with your retirement savings? The door to the lounge opened and Chloe walked in, stopping short when she saw us. Oh, sorry. Am I interrupting? No, stay. I waved her over. Mom was just giving me a fascinating history lesson on why my ambition was always seen as a character flaw. Mrs. Callahan? Chloe nodded coolly, her eyes like chips of ice. Long time no see. Though I guess you wouldn't remember me from all those Thanksgivings I spent with Evelyn while you were all at Amelia's house. My mother had the grace to look embarrassed. Chloe, of course I remember you. Save it, Chloe said, sitting down and opening her briefcase. I'm just here to finalize the Hong Kong relocation package with Evelyn. You know, for her massive, paradigm-shifting promotion that you all ignored. My phone buzzed. A text from Amelia. Mom, okay? She looks upset. She's fine, I texted back, just learning some hard truths about ROI. Evelyn, my mother's voice was pleading now. Were we really that terrible? Chloe snorted, but I held up a hand to silence her. You weren't terrible, Mom. That would have required effort. You were indifferent, which I've learned is so much worse. We can fix this, she pleaded, her hand reaching across the table. I didn't take it. Now that you know, I finished for her. Now that you know I'm successful. Now that I have money and power and influence. That's not fixing things, Mom. That's just a hostile takeover bid for a relationship you let go, bankrupt. The door opened again. It was my father. Eleanor, you've been gone a while. His voice trailed off as he saw us. Oh, join us, Dad. I gestured to an empty chair. We're having a lovely chat about family dynamics and asset management. He sat down heavily. Evelyn, about the beach house. Already handled. I cut him off. The back taxes are paid, the liens are cleared, the foundation has been reinforced, and the property is fully insured. You're welcome. That's not, he started. Not what you meant? I smiled. A tight, humorless expression. Number. It never is. Chloe opened her laptop. Evelyn, we need to finalize your Hong Kong housing allowance. The firm is offering 3 options. The penthouse at the top of the Victoria Dockside, I said without looking up from my phone. I already decided. My mother's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. A penthouse? Did you think international executives live in studio apartments, Eleanor? Chloe asked sweetly. My phone lit up with another text. It was Leo. Family dinner tonight? My treat. I want to pick your brain. Can't, I replied instantly. Board dinner at Per Se. Evelyn, my father leaned forward, his voice earnest. We know we messed up. We know. But pushing us away like this, buying the house, moving to Hong Kong. Is this really the answer? I stood up, smoothing the wrinkles from my skirt. The beach house isn't about pushing you away, Dad. It's about taking control of a narrative you wrote for me. It's about owning the one place I never felt I belonged. I picked up my briefcase. As for Hong Kong, I smiled. That's just good business. When will we see you? My mother's voice cracked. I'll be back for the holidays, I said, walking towards the door. Maybe, if I'm not too busy running my division. Chloe stood with me, her face a mask of triumphant loyalty. Don't worry, Mrs. Callahan. I'm sure Amelia will keep you updated on all the family news. She always has before. As we walked out into the hallway, I heard my mother begin to cry, a choked, broken sound. A small, buried part of me, the 13-year-old girl who just wanted her mom's approval, wanted to turn back to comfort her. But that part was getting smaller every day, crowded out by the woman I had become in spite of them. "You okay?" Chloe asked as we waited for the elevator. I checked my reflection in the mirrored doors, adjusting the collar of my designer blazer. My eyes were clear, my expression resolute. "Never better," I said. "Ready for that board dinner?" "Born ready," she grinned. "Though I have to ask, are you really going to make them stay at the hotel all week?" The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. I smiled. "Oh, that's just the appetizer. Wait until they see what I have planned for the main course." The reunion dinner in the private ballroom at the Four Seasons was everything I had orchestrated it to be. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, sparkling light over tables draped in white linen. A string quartet played softly in the corner. And my family, looking deeply uncomfortable in the formal wear the hotel concierge had to supply for them, sat at the head table like prisoners at their own execution. "Is all this really necessary?" Leo muttered, tugging at the collar of his ill-fitting tuxedo shirt. "You mean the 5-star catering, the premium open bar, and the private balcony overlooking the harbor?" I asked, taking a delicate sip of Dom Perignon. Consider it my way of making up for all those reunions I missed. I wanted my first one to be special. Amelia's husband, a man whose greatest accomplishment was a low golf handicap, whistled as servers presented the first course. Is this real beluga caviar? Only the best for my family," I smiled. "Though I'm sure it's nothing compared to the hot dogs and potato salad you usually serve." My mother hadn't touched her food. "Evelyn, can we please talk? Privately?" I led her out to the balcony. The cool night air carried the scent of salt and money. Behind us, through the glass doors, I could hear Amelia's kids exclaiming with delight as a waiter lit a baked Alaska. "This is cruel," my mother said quietly, her back to the glittering city. "Cruel?" I turned to face her, the breeze catching a loose strand of my hair. "Treating my family to an evening of unparalleled luxury is cruel? You know what I mean," she snapped. A flash of her old, dismissive self. "Flaunting your success like this. The way you flaunted Amelia's law school acceptance, or Leo's engagement to that heiress?" I leaned against the railing, my voice dangerously calm. "The parties I only heard about afterwards." "We were wrong," she whispered, the fight going out of her. "Is that what you want to hear? An apology?" "What I want," I said carefully, choosing my words like a surgeon chooses a scalpel, "is for you to understand, in a tangible way, exactly what you missed out on. Every promotion, every bonus, every milestone you ignored. It all led to this. To me. To a woman who can book an entire hotel ballroom without even looking at the price." The balcony door opened. It was Marcus. He'd agreed to make a brief appearance. "Evelyn," he nodded, then turned his charismatic smile on my mother. "You must be Eleanor. I'm Marcus Thorne. I've had the distinct pleasure of mentoring your daughter for the past decade." My mother's eyes widened. You're her boss? The one from the news article?" "Actually," Marcus smiled, "as of next month, Evelyn will be my equal in the corporate hierarchy. And given her trajectory, it's only a matter of time before she becomes my superior." I watched my mother process this, watched the last vestiges of her denial crumble as the reality of my success, personified by this powerful man, finally sank in. "The Hong Kong position," she said slowly. "It's really that significant?" I laughed, a sound that was surprisingly light. "Mom, I'll be running operations for half of Asia. My signing bonus alone could buy the beach house 10 times over." Marcus checked his watch. "Speaking of which, the Tokyo office is waiting for our call. Shall we?" "Of course." I turned back to my mother. "Enjoy the rest of dinner. The dessert course includes edible gold leaf. Try not to think about the cost." As we walked away, Marcus muttered under his breath, "Brutal. I love it." Back in the ballroom, Ben had arrived with a surprise. He was holding a stack of early edition copies of the next day's Wall Street Journal. My face was on the cover of the business section, under the headline, "The Architect of Ambition, Evelyn Callahan's Plan for Global Market Dominance." Hot off the press, he announced with a theatrical flourish, distributing them to my shocked family members. Thought you might want a souvenir. My father picked up a copy with trembling hands, reading the subheadings aloud. Global Market Leadership. Revolutionary Approach to International Commerce. Don't strain yourself, Dad. I called out as I headed for the private study to take my call. The numbers might be a bit overwhelming for a small-town insurance agent. Amelia was reading the article to her husband, her voice a mixture of awe and envy. Youngest executive to lead Asian operations, projected to increase market share by 300% within 5 years. Leo stood up suddenly as I passed. Evelyn, can I talk to you about a business opportunity? Sorry, little brother, I said without breaking stride. My investment portfolio is fully managed, but I hear there are some excellent entry-level positions in our mailroom. It could build character. The string quartet began playing a Vivaldi piece as servers brought out the main course, Wagyu beef with black truffle risotto. I watched my family try to maintain their composure amidst a level of luxury they had never imagined their forgotten daughter could command. The concierge appeared silently at my elbow. Your car is ready for the airport transfer for your Tokyo call, Miss Callahan. Thank you, James, I said, handing him a crisp $100 bill. Please make sure my family gets anything they need for the rest of the evening. Of course, Miss Callahan. As I gathered my things, my mother caught my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. When will you be back? She asked, her eyes pleading. I looked around the opulent ballroom, at my stunned family, at the life I had built, not just without them, but because of them. You know what, Mom? I'm not sure. But don't worry, I added, pulling my arm free. I'll send pictures, just like you all used to do. Walking out, I heard Ben announcing to the room, and wait until you hear about her new penthouse in Victoria Harbor. The sound of my heels on the marble floor echoed through the lobby. Each step took me further from the family that never believed in me, and closer to the empire I had built on their doubt. Let them eat Wagyu, I thought, and choke on every golden bite. The morning sun streamed through the massive windows of the beach house, painting the newly refinished floors in golden light. I was packing the last of my essentials for the flight to Hong Kong. Chloe sat cross-legged on my bed, helping me sort through a box of old photos I'd found in the attic. Look at this one, she said, holding up a faded Polaroid. Your 10th birthday. You're the only one looking at the camera. Everyone else is fawning over Amelia's new pony. A soft knock at the door interrupted my reply. My mother stood in the doorway, clutching a small cedar-scented wooden box. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I nodded, continuing to fold a silk blouse into my suitcase. She sat on the edge of the bed, turning the box over and over in her hands. I found this in our attic, she said, her voice strained. It's everything I saved. About you. Everything I was too proud or too stubborn to admit I kept. She opened the box. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, were newspaper clippings of my high school debate team wins, honor roll certificates, the program from my MBA graduation they'd skipped, even a dog-eared business magazine from 5 years ago with my name in a under 30 feature. My hands stilled. You kept these? Every single one, she whispered. I told myself I was being practical, not encouraging your pipe dreams. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of what? That you would succeed where I failed, she said, her voice cracking. That you would break free from the small-town life I felt trapped in. That you would build a world so big, there would be no room for me in it. She looked up, her eyes swimming with unshed tears. And you did. Chloe stood up quietly. I'll give you 2 a minute. No, I caught her arm. Stay. You're more family to me than most of them have been. My phone buzzed. A text from Amelia. We're outside. Can we talk? All of us. Send them up, I replied. Minutes later, my bedroom was crowded. Amelia, Leo, and my father filed in, their expressions a mixture of uncertainty and shame. Leo was clutching a thick manila envelope. What's that? I nodded toward it. Investment proposals, he admitted, his gaze fixed on the floor, for the beach house. We've all pooled our resources. It's not much, but we want to contribute. If you'll let us. I raised an eyebrow. I don't need your money. We know. My father stepped forward, his voice heavy. But we need to invest in something we should have invested in years ago. Our family. Pretty words, I said. But actions speak louder. Then let our actions show you, Amelia said, pulling out her phone. I've officially postponed my partnership track at the law firm. I'm taking a sabbatical, I thought. Maybe I could come visit you in Hong Kong. Get to know my sister. For real this time. And I've enrolled in online business courses at Wharton, Leo added, looking at me directly for the first time. I want to learn how to do it right. I was hoping maybe you could mentor me. My mother opened her box again, pulling out one last item. A single, tarnished brass key. We don't expect you to forgive us, Evelyn, she said, her voice shaking. Not overnight. Maybe not ever. But we're hoping you'll give us a chance to build something new. Something better. I looked at the key. What's this for? The front door. She smiled sadly. I kept my old copy all these years. I thought owning this house was what mattered, but you showed us. It's not about the keys or the houses or the traditions. It's about the people we choose to become. Chloe squeezed my hand as I took the key. It felt light, insignificant. I'm still going to Hong Kong, I said firmly. My voice clear and strong. We know, they replied in unison. And I'm still angry and hurt. This doesn't erase 20 years of silence. You should be, my father acknowledged. Nothing could erase it, my mother said softly. But maybe it can be a start. I walked to the window, looking out at our ocean, my ocean. Behind me, I could hear the rustle of Leo's papers, Amelia's nervous breathing, my mother's box of hidden pride. The family reunion, I said finally. Turning back to them, we'll alternate. 1 year here, 1 year in Hong Kong, and you will all need passports. The tension in the room broke. Amelia laughed through her tears. Leo dropped his envelope, a look of pure relief on his face. My father had to sit down on the edge of the bed. Really? My mother's voice shook. Really? I confirmed. But not because you've earned it, but because I am choosing it. There's a difference. Chloe grinned. Does this mean I get to plan the Hong Kong reunion? Because I have ideas. You're all going to learn Mandarin, I continued, a new set of rules forming in my mind, and proper business etiquette, and how to navigate international financial markets. Whatever it takes, Leo said. And for the first time in my life, I believed him. My phone buzzed. It was the car service. Your driver is here for the airport. That's my cue. I picked up my carry-on bag. Evelyn, my mother stood, her voice finding its strength. Thank you. Not for the forgiveness we don't deserve, but for the chance we didn't earn. I looked at them all. My imperfect, struggling, finally trying family. Don't waste it. Walking down the stairs to the waiting car, I heard them following. I saw their reflections in the polished black paint of the Bentley. They weren't chasing me anymore. They were walking with me. A different configuration. A new possibility. Hong Kong won't know what hit it, Chloe declared, hugging me goodbye at the door. I smiled, thinking of the view from my new office on the 108th floor, of my family learning to speak my language, of a future expanding like the horizon before me. Neither will they, I said, and got in the car. The beach house stood sentinel behind us, its weathered paint holding the ghosts of our past. It was no longer an inheritance of silence and exclusion, but the foundation for a new legacy we had to build ourselves. One conversation at a time. The blueprint wasn't perfect, but for the first time, the construction felt possible.